Different World Pharmacy, Vol. 4 Chapter 1. Many days passed, and now it was the middle of February 1147. As usual, the imperial capital was cold and snowy. Pal had taken back his only life from the clutches of death and survived leukemia through complete hematological remission. Now he was undergoing maintenance therapy in order to keep the leukemia in remission. His progress was favorable as there were no visible leukemia cells under a microscope. TN. The author explicitly states that Pal is undergoing chemotherapy. As Pal has already reached complete remission, the author is likely referring to maintenance therapy, which can take several years and may include occasional chemotherapy. In order to prevent an infection, Pal refrained from going outside. Instead, he wrote at an astounding pace. Aided by the speed of his ink brush, Falma completed a series of textbooks titled De Medici's New Foundations of Biopharmacy, each of which was almost 1 inch thick. Bruno then arranged for them to be bound and sold to various medical and pharmaceutical universities. It's been a long time since I wrote a book, huh? In his previous life, Falma had published several textbooks on pharmacology. However, when he picked up one of the pristine textbooks that the mimeograph had printed, he couldn't help but be deeply moved. TN. Falma compares the thickness of the textbook to his intermediate phalanx, in case you were wondering. Falma gave Ellen a copy of the textbook so she could be the first to read it. Ellen accepted the textbook, which had been wrapped, and put on her glasses. Allow me to humbly read this, Professor Falma, and may you please continue to provide guidance and encouragement. What's the matter? Did you eat something weird? Falma asked Ellen sarcastically after watching her act. It's a very impressive feat. Did Falma Kun and Pal Kun write all of this? We each wrote about half, and Lot drew a picture of the human body. Lot was also the court painter, and her illustration of the human body turned the textbook from an amateur production into something much more professional. Lot Chan is really talented too, isn't she? I'll have to study this textbook a few times before I start university. That's right, because I'm going to get you to take a course, so make sure you read it. Now that I've finished this, I have nothing to regret in life. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the two brothers had poured their heart and soul into this. Falma had taught the bare minimum of his pharmacology knowledge to Pal, and even then, it was still a heavy burden for Pal to learn it all at once. Pal's intelligence was a big help, thought Falma. If Pal wasn't able to learn everything, Falma couldn't just ask for a replacement. He would have had to write the entire textbook himself, and in the process would have worked himself to death again. When Pal returned from Novarud half a year ago, he was an annoying and tiresome sibling, but now he was a brother who could be relied upon. Similarly, Pal also held his brother in high regard. You're only 12 years old, don't go saying stuff like that. Ellen scolded Falma for looking too far ahead into the future. That's right, you still have an entire life ahead of you. Lot also encouraged Falma. Falma, who seemed to be burned out, thought that if he were to disappear from this world right now, at least he left behind a small amount of knowledge. In fact, he had left behind everything from general knowledge to specific details on medicine and biology, as well as detailed information on pharmacology. Furthermore, he also wrote down the molecular structures for all the drugs and chemical reactions that he knew. That way, when science and technology has sufficiently advanced in drug development as possible, they can go through Falma's notes one by one. Falma hoped that they'll be able to surpass what Falma remembers of Earth's modern-day medical sciences and start the next chapter of their world. Lot, Cedric-san, if you'd like, please take a look. Falma hands Lot and Cedric the same packages. Thank you very much, Falma-sama. Cedric humbly accepted the gift. Hey, something this precious, are you sure? I don't even understand what it's about. It'll just be wasted on me. A smile lit up Lot's face, since she never expected to receive something like this. You were responsible for the illustrations, so of course you should receive a copy. Also, there are some things you should read, such as the section on emergency first aid. I left a bookmark there. When the three unwrapped the textbooks, they found a pelt bookmark with a gem of their favorite color attached. It was Falma's gift to them. "Falma-kun is really diligent, isn't he? Tell me I'm the best." "You're the best." Cedric playfully praised Falma. "Eric, Falma-san really is great. Oh, I forgot to deliver the medicine for Ambroise-san's husband to her. Ambroise-san works as a merchant and is Falma's patient because he's suffering from chronic gastritis." "Oh no. I'll go deliver it." As Falma put on his black houri and prepared to go outside, Lot quickly grabbed the prescription bag. "I'll go. If it's the Ambroise's mansion, then I'll be familiar with it." "Really? Well, thank you. If you would be so kind." Lot out of the pharmacy as fast as the wind. TN. Gastritis is when your stomach lining is inflamed, could cause nausea and even vomiting. Not fun. Falma went downstairs to the first floor and handed out textbooks to the part-time pharmacists. The Otherworld Pharmacy currently employs 3 part-time pharmacists for Falma and Ellen's convenience. They were chatting during their break, but when they saw Falma's figure they stopped and stood up. A textbook? It would be useful if they read it during their free time. "My brother and I wrote it. Please read it, even if it's little by little." "Thank you very much. I'll humbly read it." Falma had recruited Roger, a first-class pharmacist, from the Kingdom of Nadale while he was unemployed. Although he wasn't very fluent in the Kingdom of Sanflub's language, he was still very talented. Thank you, shopkeeper-sama. I'll commit this book to memory." Rebecca, a second-class pharmacist who recently graduated from university, looked delighted. However, she had a very timid personality and stuttered whenever she was talking with Falma. It's not necessary to memorize it. As long as you read and understand it, it's fine. This looks difficult. I'll study it after I put the children to bed." A part-time worker who held many jobs, Celeste was a lion-hearted mother of several kids. She's a second-class pharmacist and was quick at prescribing medicine. Furthermore, she's also an alumnus of Novarut Medical University. "It's fine to take your time, you know. I don't want to be a burden," thought Falma. "Falma-kun, you have enough pharmacists, right? I'm going to head out for a bit. Be careful." Ellen had patients of her own even before she started working with Falma. They were all powerful aristocrats and nobles. Every week, Ellen takes half a day off to care for them. "Well then, I should do my best this afternoon as well." Before his lunch break was over and immediately after Lot had left on her errand, a carriage stopped in front of the pharmacy. The gatekeeper came to call for Falma, so he knew that a noble had come to visit. Unless they're seriously sick, Falma typically wouldn't greet a visitor in person just because they're nobility. However, if the visitor was a patron, he'd greet them no matter what their social status was. "Sorry, are you still on vacation?" It's Her Excellence, the Baroness Melody Loru." "It's all right, welcome." Falma bowed his head. The Empire's best metal and glass worker, Melody, stepped out of the carriage. This was her first time in a pharmacy. TN. Remember, in the light novels Falma treated Melody for the first time in Volume 2 Chapter 9, but he did so by visiting her in person. The manga switched this up by skipping the treatment and having Melody visit Falma in Chapter 15. Melody's hair was long and her makeup was perfect, making her look even more beautiful. She wore a white dress with a bustle, which was popular among the citizens. A delightful-looking dark blue ribbon lined the frills of the dress. That the Baroness Melody was able to go outside dressed so fancily was proof that her condition had stabilized. She took off her fluffy feathered hat and nodded at Falma. TN. There was a description of what a bustle looks like, but I had a hard time translating it while doing it justice, so just Google Victorian bustle if you're curious. Hello, Falma-sama. I appreciated your gift and letter of gratitude the other day. Falma had Melody make compressed oxygen canisters for Pal's treatment, and naturally he sent her a thank you letter afterwards. Likewise, thank you for helping with the commission for the compressed air tank. To make something as large as complicated as that in just a single day, my brother's life was saved thanks to you. He's very grateful. Melody's swift work had helped both Falma and Pal. Was it good? Could it withstand the internal pressure? Yes, there was no problem. It was wonderful. Is that so? Well then, I'm relieved. By the way, could I trouble you to give me a medical examination when you're free? Melody had come to pick up her medicine for her schizophrenia. Since he last saw her, Melody was now able to control her schizophrenia and tension headache attacks and seemed to be in good condition. Falma examined her while listening to her butler describe her day-to-day routine. Yes, Melody-sama appears to be in very good health. Her work is very fulfilling. She goes on walks during the day, explores her territory, and works on her commissions. Recently, she also started going to evening parties. The butler was happy to report on Melody's condition. At this stage of treatment for schizophrenia, it's very easy to relapse and develop other types of mental illnesses. Furthermore, during treatment patients may be lethargic or experience cognitive dysfunction. Fortunately, Melody didn't seem to be experiencing any of those symptoms. Is that so? That's good. Let's reduce the dosage of the medicine. Falma also changed the combination of drugs used, so he instructed the butler to inform him if anything unusual happens. With schizophrenia, it was necessary to not only observe the patient but also the surrounding environment. Is there any chance that I can stop taking the medicine? In your current state, you could stop taking the medicine. With a relieved expression on her face, Baroness Melody realized that she could finally live a normal life. However, Falma continued, but, although Falma's divine sight confirmed that Melody's condition was improving, it wasn't time to celebrate yet. If you suddenly stop taking the medicine, there's a very high chance that the schizophrenia will come back. In order to prevent this, let's keep taking the medicine for now. I understand. Melody understood. Falma explained that given the especially good progress, she needed to endure for just a little longer. I don't want to live my life in a cage anymore. Thanks to Master Falma's medicine, I can spend the rest of my life in good health. You're my benefactor. You gave me the gift of helping me recover my sanity. No, I should be thanking you instead. From Falma's point of view, his large orders of equipment for use at the Marseille pharmaceutical factory was always completed on time and as requested, so he had no right to object to Melody's unreasonable demands here. Now then, I've hindered the other customers, so please excuse me. Melody, smiling sweetly, stood up and brushed her hair back. It was at this moment that Falma suddenly had an uncomfortable feeling. Please, wait a moment. Melody-sama, may I see your hand? But I'm a bit ashamed to show you. Melody hid her fingers from Falma. Why are you ashamed? It's because I have the hands of a craftsman. They've grown a lot of calluses from handling tools. Because Melody felt bashful, she nervously held out both hands in front of Falma. Have they increased recently? I wonder if it's because the continuing orders with quick deadlines. It didn't seem like Melody understood the cause. However, Falma still smiled. No, that's not it. Although there are some calluses, about half of these are warts. Did you scrape this part? A part of the wart was flat. Yes, I wasn't feeling well, so I scraped it with a knife. Falma informed Melody why that was a problem. It may have caused them to increase. Verruca vulgaris. Falma used his divine eye to confirm the disease, verruca, more commonly known as warts. Falma took Melody's hand and brought it near his face to inspect the blood vessels under the warts. These warts were caused by viruses. Falma explains the concept of viruses to Melody. Warts usually form in places where the skin is injured, so Melody, as a craftsman, must have hurt her hands a lot. Currently, there are no drugs which can cure this virus. The human papillomavirus, HPV, has infected deep into the skin of Melody's palm. No way, it won't heal. It'll be very embarrassing if this increases. However, there may be drugs which can treat this. Please give me a moment. It was impossible to judge the effectiveness of liquid nitrogen as a treatment using Falma's divine eye, so he checked some other drugs instead. salicylic acid, glutaraldehyde. There's a way to soften the stratum corneum of the wart, but it's not always effective. In this case, it doesn't seem like it will work for Melody. At the same time, Lot had just returned to the pharmacy from her errand and saw Falma unexpectedly grabbing Melody's hand and bringing it close to his face. She was startled and quickly hid in the pharmacy's shadows. Just now, could that have been a kiss? Based on appearances, that's what it looked like. A kiss on the palm rather than the back of the hand from a man to a woman surely meant it was a proposal. Falma and Melody had that sort of relationship, thought Lot, confused. Come to think of it, Falma went to Melody's mansion several times while he was treating her. Falma must have slowly became more intimate with Melody during that time. I didn't realize it at all. It was unusual for Falma to touch a woman's body, unless it was for a medical examination. Besides, Melody's hand wasn't diseased. Falma rarely even touched Lot. That's how intimate this situation was. If you think about it, Falma and Melody are both nobles, and Melody is also a Baroness. As such, despite the age difference, she was still the best partner for Falma. So that's how it is. To Falma, Lot was just a servant. As she thought that, she felt a wave of misery and looked down at her hands. They were smooth despite Lot's work in the kitchen due to the lotion that Falma makes for her. Lot didn't think she could ask for anything more than this. I wonder if I'll have to leave the de Medici's family's mansion if I get married. Maybe I'll only get to see Falma Salma at the pharmacy. A sigh escaped Lot's lips as she considered her bleak future. She began to absent-mindedly play with the nearby snow. Meanwhile, Falma had finished examining Melody's hand. He was completely ignorant of what had just happened, and instead began to explain the treatment process. There's no way around it. We'll freeze the warts using liquid nitrogen. After that, you can return to your mansion for some tea. There's no cure for verruca vulgaris, so the typical treatment is to use liquid nitrogen to freeze the skin until it becomes necrotic. Then, the infected area can be shaved off little by little. It's normal to not use any anesthesia when treating with liquid nitrogen. However, there may be a sharp pain, so it was important that Melody didn't accidentally activate her flames. Melody is a flame arts user, so if she accidentally evaporates the liquid nitrogen, then the treatment can't continue. Okay. Melody looked puzzled. What would you prefer? A way that may hurt more, but takes less treatments, or a way that may hurt less, but takes more treatments? I'm in pain, so it's better if it doesn't hurt. Melody was scared. I mistranslated Melody's title as Archduke when it's actually Baroness. The previous parts have been updated. Understood. Today we'll try a treatment that doesn't hurt. Let's start by applying the anesthetic. Falma spread some ointment containing lidocaine onto Melody's fingers. Let me know when your hand is numb so I know whether the anesthetic is effective. Alright, next person please. Falma began to examine the steadily increasing number of patients while Melody waited in the counseling corner to avoid being a nuisance. Slowly, as Falma examined patient after patient, the sensation in Melody's fingertips disappeared. She once again admired how reliable and talented Falma was, despite only being a child. I think the anesthetic worked. Melody showed Falma her hands. Understood. Falma left for the compounding room. Liquid nitrogen. Liquid nitrogen at -196°C was materialized into a low-temperature resistant container, and a cotton swab was dipped into the fluid. This caused the tip of the swab to freeze and maintain a super low temperature. Well then, let's freeze it. Falma returned to the store and applied liquid nitrogen on the warts on Melody's hand using the swab. While prolonged exposure to liquid nitrogen is usually very painful, short bursts don't hurt as much. Furthermore, Melody is anesthetized, so she felt almost no pain at all. Is it over already? Yes, it's fine for now, but please come back in 5 days so we can freeze the virus before it starts growing again. We'll remove it immediately. With that, the treatment was completed. Falma also gave Melody some Jobs Tears tea, which is very effective against warts caused by papillomavirus. Falma had grown a lot of it in Marseille, and as such the pharmacy had a lot in stock. "Thank you very much, I'm so relieved." Melody expressed her gratitude and paid Falma. "I hope you get well soon." When Ellen returned from treating her patients, she found Lot sitting on the stairs in front of the pharmacy. "Lot-chan, what happened here?" In front of the pharmacy were numerous snowmen which Lot had absent-mindedly built with the snow that had fallen onto the ground. They were so beautiful, they seemed like they would come to life. However, as a result, Lot's hands had turned red and swollen. "Oh my, you built all this with your bare hands even though your guardian deity isn't the water god. What happened?" "I got immersed in building the snowmen, and now my hands really hurt." Lot sadly sniffled. "That much is obvious. At this rate you'll get frostbite." "Well, there's no other choice. I'll apply some of the de Medici's cream, so it should heal in about a week." Ellen tried to go inside to get the medicine, but Lot tugged on her coat. Quadruple A. "Don't go inside, Ellen-sama." "Oh, why is that?" "That's Melody-sama is inside right now, with Falma-sama, so he's treating her, right?" "What's wrong with that?" Lot was flustered. "Falma-sama is proposing right now, so I don't think we should interrupt them." "Eh? Proposing?" Ellen's voice cracked out of shock at hearing those words. "Falma-kun's proposing, so there was someone he liked after all." "He's normally so quiet." Ellen still thought of Falma as a child, but at 12 years old it wasn't unreasonable to be thinking about marriage. Ellen's father, the Count, had started introducing her to love stories little by little, so it was also at the back of her mind. "Falma-kun, you're growing up." At that moment, Melody exited the pharmacy with her butler. She looked very happy and cheerfully bid farewell to Ellen and Lot with a "Goodbye, thanks for taking care of me." Then she entered her carriage and departed for her mansion. "What do you think?" Ellen whispered to Lot. She seemed happy, but I think that's natural. Quadruple A. Did Melody-sama accept Falma-sama's proposal? Falma-sama is such a gentleman, even Melody-sama. It sounded as though Lot's very soul had escaped her. Suddenly, and with terrible timing, Falma spoke up from behind the two. "Thanks for running the errand, Lot. Were you late?" Ellen's here too." It was no big deal. "I think some kids came to play in front of the pharmacy, which is why there are so many snowmen." Lot was startled by Falma's question and came up with an excuse. "Lot-chan built so many snowmen that she'll going to get frostbite." "Hey, let me see." Falma was surprised and reached out for Lot's hands. The warmth of Falma's hands that were nonchalantly extended caused Lot's heart to race. "Falma-sama, you can't. You already have Melody-sama." Lot quickly pushed away Falma's hands so as to not hurt Melody's feelings. "That's right, Falma-kun. You shouldn't be so promiscuous." Ellen agreed with Lot. "What are you saying?" When Falma heard the story, he laughed in embarrassment. "It was a funny story. I was just examining Melody's hand, since there were warts." "Really? Is that really true?" Lot trusted Falma, and her voice rose in delight. "What did you think it was?" "Nothing in particular. That day, Lot was in such a good mood that she served more luxurious snacks that they could eat.